Lucas Bennett gripped the steering wheel of the black SUV, his pulse racing as he tore through Chicago's crowded streets, the sound of police sirens echoing behind him. Miles away, Vanessa Clark watched the chaos unfold on her laptop from the safety of a luxury apartment, her escape plan already in motion. Theirs was a partnership built on deception, precision, and greed, a heist meticulously planned but now spiraling into one of the most chaotic police chases the city had ever witnessed. As the night wore on, the thin veneer of control both criminals held began to unravel, dragging them deeper into a web of their own making. It began as a typical Tuesday afternoon in Chicago. The streets bustled with the familiar rhythm of city life. Cars crawled through traffic, and pedestrians hurried along sidewalks, many preoccupied with their phones or conversations. The air carried the faint scent of street vendors' food, mingled with the hum of engines and the occasional honk of a frustrated driver. It was the kind of day where nothing out of the ordinary was expected, but that sense of normalcy was about to shatter. At precisely 2:45 p.m., the quiet routine of the city was disrupted by a sudden surge of chaos. A call came through to Chicago PD's dispatch, reporting a brazen robbery at a high-end jewelry store in the heart of the Loop. The initial details were scarce. A masked individual had stormed into the store, grabbed handfuls of diamond-studded watches, necklaces, and bracelets, and fled within minutes. The crime was swift, calculated, and left both staff and customers in shock. Not long after, a black SUV with heavily tinted windows was spotted speeding away from the scene. The vehicle's reckless maneuvers through downtown traffic drew attention, and eyewitnesses quickly alerted authorities. Within moments, squad cars were mobilized, their sirens piercing the city's soundscape as they raced to intercept the fleeing suspect. The SUV darted onto Interstate 290, its driver showing no regard for speed limits or safety. From the outset, it was clear this wasn't a panicked escape, but a deliberate attempt to outwit and outmaneuver law enforcement. Officers in pursuit kept a measured distance, wary of the risk to other drivers on the busy highway. Meanwhile, news helicopters, alerted by police radio chatter, took to the skies, their cameras capturing the unfolding drama in real time. The aerial view of the chase was both mesmerizing and alarming. The SUV weaved through lanes with surgical precision, narrowly avoiding collisions with other vehicles. It accelerated and decelerated unpredictably, leaving officers guessing its next move. To those watching on live television, the scene resembled a high-octane action movie. But for those on the ground, it was an immediate threat. As the chase continued, the driver's identity remained unknown. Speculation swirled. Was this an experienced criminal, a desperate individual with nothing to lose, or someone making a reckless mistake? The only certainty was the danger posed by the SUV's erratic behavior. With every sharp turn and risky maneuver, the potential for a catastrophic accident grew. By the time the chase entered its 10th minute, it had captured the attention of the entire city. Social media lit up with posts and live streams as Chicagoans tuned in to the gripping spectacle. The footage revealed the scale of the response: patrol cars in pursuit, roadblocks being prepared, and spike strips readied at key exit points. From the air, the city's vast network of roads looked like a chessboard, with police strategizing each move to corner the suspect. Despite their efforts, the driver seemed to anticipate their tactics. He avoided exits where officers were stationed and took sharp turns at the last moment, leaving a trail of confusion in his wake. The tension mounted with each passing second, as Chicago watched, transfixed by a chase that was only just beginning. The chase took a dangerous turn as the black SUV veered off Interstate 290, leaving the relative openness of the highway for the tight, congested streets of Chicago's west side. Here, the stakes heightened significantly. The driver, still maintaining an aggressive pace, now had to contend with pedestrians, cyclists, and parked cars that lined the narrow streets. Officers following in patrol cars adjusted their approach, aware that one wrong move could spell disaster in this densely populated area. From above, the police helicopter continued to track the vehicle, its spotlight occasionally catching the gleaming reflection of the SUV's windows as it zigzagged through neighborhoods. The live broadcast offered a gripping view of the escalating chaos. Viewers watched in real time as the SUV narrowly missed rear-ending a city bus, swerved around delivery trucks, and sped through intersections without hesitation. Each reckless maneuver sent shockwaves of panic through drivers and pedestrians who scrambled to get out of the way. The driver's behavior suggested a familiarity with the area. Instead of sticking to main roads, he darted down side streets and alleyways, making it increasingly difficult for ground units to keep up. Officers worked to maintain a visual on the SUV while coordinating with the aerial team to predict his next moves. Tactical units deployed spike strips at key intersections, but the driver seemed to anticipate their placement, avoiding them with remarkable precision. The situation grew even more precarious as the SUV entered a school zone just as children were being dismissed for the day. Parents and students filled the sidewalks, creating a chaotic and high-risk environment. Officers faced an agonizing decision whether to maintain the pursuit or hold back to ensure the safety of the public. A momentary lull occurred as patrol cars slowed, giving the SUV a small window of opportunity to gain distance. Inside the school zone, the SUV's reckless trajectory continued to leave a trail of destruction. The vehicle clipped several parked cars, sending debris flying, and narrowly avoided striking a crossing guard who dove out of the way at the last second. The footage from the helicopter captured the terrifying close calls, and news anchors narrated the unfolding events with a mix of disbelief and urgency. As the SUV exited the school zone, the chase entered a new phase. With fewer pedestrians in the immediate vicinity, police resumed their aggressive pursuit. The suspect responded by pushing the vehicle to its limits, speeding through red lights and skidding around corners with tires screeching. The sound of sirens blared through the streets, creating a chaotic symphony that echoed across the neighborhood. Despite their best efforts, the officers remained several steps behind the suspect, whose erratic driving continued to confound their strategies. Calls flooded into dispatch from concerned residents reporting property damage and near misses. Each update added to the urgency of the situation as the city held its breath, bracing for what might happen next. The pursuit through the West Side was not just a test of the driver's nerve and skill, but also of the officer's ability to manage a rapidly escalating crisis. Every second felt like a gamble, with lives hanging in the balance as the chase pressed on, its outcome still uncertain. As the police chase unfolded across Chicago's sprawling streets, investigators back at the precinct worked frantically to piece together the identity of the suspect and uncover the motive behind the robbery. A breakthrough came when additional surveillance footage from the jewelry store arrived. The footage showed a critical detail that had been missed in the initial chaos. The suspect had an accomplice. The new video revealed a second vehicle parked a block away from the store during the robbery. A woman dressed in dark clothing and wearing sunglasses waited inside a silver sedan with the engine running. Moments after the masked man dashed out of the store and climbed into the black SUV, the sedan drove away in the opposite direction. It was a classic bait-and-switch strategy. While police attention was focused on the fleeing SUV, the woman, now identified as Vanessa Clark, had made her escape unnoticed, likely with the stolen goods in her possession. The discovery stunned investigators and added a new layer of complexity to the case. The man driving the SUV, later identified as Lucas Bennett, wasn't just a lone criminal fleeing a heist, he was a decoy. His reckless chase was a deliberate effort to divert law enforcement while Vanessa disappeared with the loot. It was a bold and calculated plan, the kind rarely seen outside of movies. As news of this revelation broke, viewers across the city were riveted. The aerial footage of the chase, already dramatic, now carried the added intrigue of a larger conspiracy. Police teams scrambled to track both vehicles. While the SUV remained the primary focus of the pursuit, unmarked units began searching for the silver sedan, knowing it held the key to solving the case. Meanwhile, Lucas showed no signs of slowing down. The chase stretched into its second hour, his path growing increasingly erratic. At times, he seemed to double back on his route, leading officers through previously cleared streets as if testing their persistence. Investigators speculated that he might be stalling for time, buying Vanessa enough of a head start to vanish entirely. The cat-and-mouse game reached a new level of intensity as Lucas led police through a series of industrial areas. The tightly packed warehouses and winding service roads created a labyrinth that slowed the pursuing officers. Helicopter footage showed the SUV darting through narrow passageways and nearly colliding with delivery trucks as it weaved through the maze-like streets. Each close call heightened the tension as the line between escape and disaster grew razor thin. Back at the precinct, investigators unearthed more about Lucas's background. He had a history of petty theft and minor offenses, but nothing on the scale of this chase. His sudden involvement in such a high-stakes crime suggested he was a pawn in a larger scheme orchestrated by Vanessa. The deeper they dug, the clearer it became that Vanessa was no ordinary accomplice. She had planned the heist with precision, using Lucas as a distraction while she disappeared with millions of dollars worth of stolen jewelry. As the pieces of the puzzle began to come together, so too did the urgency to end the chase. Lucas had already pushed the limits of his vehicle and his driving skills, but his desperation made him unpredictable. The city braced itself, wondering just how far he would go to protect the person pulling the strings from behind the scenes. As the chase entered its third hour, the tension reached a breaking point. Lucas's black SUV hurtled toward Chicago's bustling downtown area, where the city's iconic skyscrapers loomed over the streets below. The decision to bring the chase into the densely packed heart of the city signaled either desperation or a bold, calculated risk. Officers knew the risks would skyrocket in this high-traffic, heavily populated zone, but Lucas showed no signs of concern for the chaos he was leaving in his wake. The streets downtown were a labyrinth of vehicles, pedestrians, and public transportation, creating an environment rife with potential for disaster. Lucas sped through red lights and intersections with reckless abandon, narrowly missing buses and swerving around delivery vans. Footage from the police helicopter captured pedestrians scrambling for safety as the SUV roared past, leaving a trail of confusion and fear in its wake. For the officers on the ground, every second counted. They knew that Lucas's erratic driving wasn't just dangerous, it was life-threatening. As Lucas approached the Magnificent Mile, one of Chicago's busiest shopping districts, police sprang into action with a bold strategy to end the chase. Tactical units coordinated a roadblock at a key intersection, while other officers prepared spike strips further down the road. The plan was simple but risky. Funnel Lucas into a controlled area and disable his vehicle before he could reach even more crowded streets. The helicopter's aerial view showed the pieces falling into place. Patrol cars blocked several major streets, forcing Lucas to make quick, sharp turns down narrower routes. It seemed as though the plan might work. The SUV's tires screeched as it struggled to maintain speed on the tight corners, but Lucas, ever resourceful, found a gap in the blockade and made a daring escape. His vehicle tore through an open construction site, narrowly avoiding debris and heavy machinery before emerging back onto the main road. The failed trap only emboldened Lucas, who now seemed to thrive on the adrenaline of the pursuit. Officers regrouped and tightened their focus, knowing they were running out of options to safely stop the SUV. The risk to public safety grew with every passing minute, and the frustration among law enforcement was palpable. Just as it seemed Lucas might evade capture again, he made an unexpected move that caught everyone off guard. Abandoning the SUV in the middle of a busy street, he bolted on foot toward the entrance of a crowded train station. The dramatic moment, captured live by the helicopter's camera, left viewers across the city glued to their screens. Inside the station, chaos erupted as Lucas darted through throngs of commuters, vaulting over turnstiles and weaving between crowds. Officers rushed in after him, splitting up to cover the sprawling platforms and tunnels. Lucas's agility and desperation gave him an edge, but the walls were closing in. As he reached the edge of a platform, a train roared past, forcing him to retreat and giving police a moment to close the gap. The chase had transitioned from the streets to the subterranean maze of the train station. But Lucas's determination to escape remained unshaken. Every step he took brought him closer to being caught, yet his bold moves kept him one step ahead. Above ground, the city watched in suspense, knowing the outcome was imminent, but unsure of what final twist might still unfold. Night had fallen over Chicago by the time the chase reached its final act. After abandoning the train station and cutting through a maze of darkened alleys, Lucas found himself in an industrial rail yard on the city's outskirts. The sprawling yard, with its rows of parked freight cars and towering stacks of shipping containers, provided an eerie, desolate backdrop. For a fleeting moment, it seemed as if Lucas might have found a place to disappear. But law enforcement was closing in rapidly. The glow of police lights and the steady thrum of the helicopter above ensured there was no true escape. Lucas, now visibly exhausted, tried to navigate the labyrinth of the rail yard on foot. His movements were erratic, his energy waning after hours of evading capture. Officers, equipped with flashlights and tactical gear, fanned out across the area, their voices echoing commands into the cold night air. The sense of inevitability hung thick in the air, but Lucas's desperation kept him moving. He clambered over freight cars and ducked into narrow passageways, hoping to outlast the relentless pursuit. The end came swiftly. As Lucas attempted to scale a fence at the edge of the yard, he was surrounded by SWAT officers. The helicopter's spotlight illuminated the scene, capturing the tense standoff in stark detail. For a moment, it seemed he might resist, but the weight of the chase, the hours of adrenaline, and the hopelessness of his situation finally overcame him. Lucas dropped to his knees, surrendering as officers moved in to take him into custody. With Lucas in handcuffs, the focus of the investigation shifted immediately to Vanessa Clark, the mastermind behind the heist. Lucas, aware that his role as the decoy had only delayed the inevitable, offered investigators a crucial piece of information: Vanessa's location. Acting on the lead, police units converged on a luxury high-rise apartment on Chicago's North Side, where they found Vanessa attempting to pack her belongings. Inside the apartment, officers discovered more than just the stolen jewelry. Hidden compartments revealed counterfeit money, forged documents, and evidence linking Vanessa to a string of unsolved high-profile robberies in multiple states. The operation she had orchestrated wasn't a one-off. It was part of a larger, meticulously planned criminal enterprise. Lucas's role as a pawn had been just one piece of her intricate strategy to evade law enforcement and maximize her profits. As Vanessa was taken into custody, the magnitude of the case became clear. What had started as a seemingly straightforward jewelry store robbery had unraveled into a multi-layered operation involving deception, decoys, and elaborate planning. Lucas and Vanessa now faced an array of charges, including grand larceny, reckless endangerment, and conspiracy. The aerial footage of the chase, with its dramatic twists and near misses, became a viral sensation, captivating viewers nationwide. The live coverage had shown the city's determination to protect its citizens, even as chaos unfolded in real time. For many, the spectacle of the pursuit was unforgettable, but for law enforcement, it was a sobering reminder of the lengths some would go to evade justice. In the weeks that followed, investigators worked to piece together the full scope of Vanessa's criminal network. Questions lingered. How many others were involved? How long had the operation been active? And most chillingly, what might have happened if the chase hadn't ended when it did? The events of that night left an indelible mark on Chicago, a testament to the thin line between chaos and control in a city constantly on the move.